performance isn't going to be the best if they're not internally motivated to do so. So I introduce all three of those concepts just as a kind of a foundation for what I'm going to go into next, which is how these relate to the outdoors and outdoor play, specifically for our pediatric clients. So what we have here is Timber Nook. Timber Nook is a camp developed by a pediatric occupational therapist, and what they have there is they describe themselves as a nature-based play experiences that challenge the senses and inspire creativity, independence, and imagination in the great outdoors. So this camp was developed by Angela Hanscom, who's a pediatric occupational therapist, and she is very popular in the OT community, specifically these settings. She's got a TED Talk here, and I think it really resonates specifically for those working in schools. So I'm gonna let her take it over here. And just let me know again if there's any issues with the sound, but I think we're set now.
I'm sitting in a classroom full of 10 and 11-year-olds, and I can immediately see why the teacher has called me in. 6 kids are tilting so far back in their chairs, they're dangerously close to cracking their heads open. Several are slumped over their desks, while others find any excuse to get up and out of their chairs. Then there's one child hitting his head with a plastic water bottle. No one could sit still. And as a result, the teacher couldn't teach. And she's not alone. Veteran teachers everywhere are reporting changes in the development of children in the past 30 years. Here are 3 alarming trends. Number 1 issue, children are having trouble paying attention in school. One teacher reports that in the past, she was able to teach the whole classroom as a whole, and maybe had 1 or 2 kids that had difficulty paying attention. Now, on a good day, at least 8 out of those 26 kids are having trouble. Spatial awareness is being affected. A director of a preschool for over 40 years tells me, I don't remember this being an issue in the past, but kids are literally running into each other and into the walls. At least 3 times a day, a child will fall out of the chair and onto the ground. Kids are getting much more easily frustrated, crying at the drop of the hat, even in the upper grades. So what is going on? Why the rise in sensory and motor issues in the past 30 years? As a pediatric occupational therapist, it is my job to study these trends and try to make sense of them. We did a study in an elementary school and looked at core strength and compared this to standardized norms from 1984, my generation. Then we looked at normal balance reactions. When we combined the 2 scores, we found only 1 out of every 12 children today could meet the averages from the kids of the 1980s. Only 1 out of every 12. Why? Because we are seriously reducing and restricting children's movement opportunities and is wreaking havoc on their neurological systems. They are going to school with bodies less prepared to learn than ever before in history. It is becoming increasingly rare to find children playing outdoors, rolling down hills, spinning in circles just for fun, and climbing trees. We've taken away merry-go-rounds and teeter-totters. We've shortened the length of recess from full-hour sessions to a mere 20 minutes if kids are lucky. All of this is affecting their development. To make matters worse, we are further containing children by having them sit in chairs for hours on end, both in the home and in the school environment. This is due to an overemphasis on highly structured activities and academics. And don't get me started on screen time. We need to allow them to move in all different directions, rapidly and frequently throughout the day. They need to move that fluid back and forth in the inner ear to stimulate the hair cells in there. This develops our vestibular system, or our balance sense. This sense is key to all the other senses. If we're not stimulating it enough through frequent movement opportunities, it can affect everything. The sense helps us to know where our body is in space, to get from point A to point B safely, to stay in our seat without falling out, to regulate our emotions back down again and our activity level, to support all 6 eye muscles to track for reading and for writing. And it turns a reticular activating system on in the brain to tune in. Most children are walking around with underdeveloped vestibular systems due to our sedentary lifestyles. This is becoming a big problem for attention. How do we rectify this issue? How do we get more movement opportunities for children? Here are 3 ways to get started. We need to lengthen recess times to a full hour. 20-minute recess sessions don't work. If kids are sitting for too long, they get antsy. Then we let them outdoors. What happens is when they first start moving, their activity levels actually go up. So now, if you let them in 20 minutes, they're more hyper than before. We need to allow for a full 45 minutes to an hour for that to regulate back down again. We need to allow children to move in ways that make adults gasp. They need to swing daringly high. They need to go upside down. They need to spin in circles and fall on the ground. They need to jump off things, and yes, we do need to let them climb trees to new heights. Now, if we consistently keep them from stimulating the senses in more extreme ways, we become the barrier to child development. We must get them outdoors. The natural environment challenges yet calms the senses. It organizes the brain. This lays the foundation for learning. We need to allow children to play outdoors at least 3 hours every single day. This is in order to reap the many developmental benefits, but also to maintain them. So let us always remember this. In order for children to learn, they need to be able to pay attention. In order to pay attention, we must let them move. Thank you.
Okay, so Angela has got some pretty strong opinions about the way that she views childhood development. I agree with a lot of what she says, and if you're more interested in learning about her and her viewpoints and the way that she sees positives and benefits to childhood development, these are links. I can share this presentation. This will bring you to their website. This is a link specifically to the school and educator trainings that they offer based off of these ideas. And I'll go on to the next one here. I've got some more, actually, I'll go forward, and then I've got some more resources at the end. So here we go. So here are some actual activities that we can look at through an occupational therapy perspective and see how they target these developmental skills. So these are a few examples of some activities that you can participate in the outdoors. And when I say the outdoors, I don't necessarily mean that you need to drive up to the Adirondacks and go on a backpacking trip through the woods to do any of these. These activities could be done, from a balcony, from a walk through a public park. even around the block. These are activities that can be graded up or down based on an individual's abilities. And again, these are going to be things that we want to work with our parents and our family on kind of expressing the importance of these types of activities. So some of the really good examples I'll pull out, some of the visual perceptual ones, I Spy. I Spy is a great game. I remember we used to do walks all the time with when I was working at Center for Spectrum. I would love to play I Spy. Again, it's going to target those visual perceptual skills, keeps kids engaged while they're in outdoor activities. She mentioned tree climbing. I know both schools for Center just got new playgrounds. These are also ideal opportunities to work on some of those motor planning skills. When we talk about the vestibular processing, she mentioned that's for balancing coordination. These are just, again, some of those opportunities that children should have to be outdoors, learning their bodies and organizing their minds, really. So we can see here how being in the outdoors can really target all these areas of childhood development. And if I go on to the next page, here's even some more ways that we can specifically target some of the things. And I'm sure we can all think of a kiddo in our mind who would benefit from each of these different types of activities. And I'm sure when Angela talked about some of the things that she's observed looking at schools, I'm sure we can all visualize that in our head. I know I've seen that dozens of times in schools, kids exactly like she described. So these different activities can help, promote healthy development, and it can be incorporated, specifically now that schools are in session, in working with different families, parents, siblings, to get these kids outdoors and allow them to interact with their environments and work on some of these skills. So here is an example. This is, I call it tactile nature art. This is something I worked on with some of my students out in San Diego. This is basically an art picture developed from what was on the ground around us. I had students collect things, and we worked to put together a couple landscape pictures here. But when we participate in activities like this, especially with our kids on the autism spectrum, like Angela was saying, it just provides them opportunities to engage with their environments and work on those developmental skills while being in the outdoors. And this is just one example. That those lists are more examples of these different types of activities that can be done relatively easily. And it's not going to cost you anything to get outside with the kids. So just some more information to relay to families, and if you're working in the classroom, just some ideas to have. So here are some additional resources. If you liked what Angela had to say, this first link here is her book that she's published. It's called Balanced and Barefoot: How Unrestricted Outdoor Play Makes for Strong, Confident, and Capable Children. The audience with that book is parents, educators, and occupational therapists. So the language in it is written for anybody really to pick it up and read. I have a copy, and I found it to be a great read and kind of really touches on some of these ideas. This second link here, and again, I'll find a way to post this so that you guys can go through these. The second one here is just an article, and it was written after the pandemic came out. So it just kind of is very relevant for the last couple months. I know things are starting to kind of open back up here, but this was really relevant to tackling some of those challenges we have with what's going on currently. This third one here is, I'm actually going to switch off, bring you up to this one. So this is a guide, Natural Teachers Network, a guide for just considering ways to be a natural teacher in the classroom. So again, I will post a link to all these. Just some really good information if you're hoping to pursue some of this moving forward, and also to share with the families of the students you have now. One of the other resources I had here. That's that creating child-friendly environments during tricky times. That's specific to the pandemic going on right now. One other company I want to talk about here, this is Outdoor Kids OT. And so they've got a video. They are similar to Timbernook. They offer outdoor therapeutic play activities specific in nature. This is just what some of the parents are saying about their children after they participate in the program. This isn't a long video, so I'll just play this here.
I mean, I think for us, this process has been sort of phenomenal. I mean, Mateo was a kid that didn't like to get dirty, didn't have a lot of confidence in just his body. Yeah, like he was very careful, but now, I mean, he gets dirty, he falls, he gets up and everything's okay. Yeah, he's much more confident too. I think even at school we're starting to see that, like playing with the other kids. I think before the teachers used to say like Mateo was a little bit more cautious, but now, I mean, he's probably the opposite of that.
I think that another change that I've seen is around coordination. I think that
definitely
there seems like he's more sort of free in his movement, more fluid and more coordinated. There's some of the games that we played here, catching like heavy balls, or even writing his name with sticks, like things that he wouldn't do anywhere else. And it feels like such a easy way of doing that, and so just natural. It doesn't feel like work, and I think that's why this works.
It's hard to imagine OT in any other way now. I'm like, I don't even think that could work.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to do it.
So Outdoor Kids OT has also developed their own approach to things. Let's see if they have it. I believe it's right here. Okay, so they call it the Contigo approach. It's the way that they've developed their clinic. It stands for connection with others and transformation through therapy in the great outdoors. So as you can see, these ideas are picking up steam in the OT world. And I think it's valuable when we consider how OT services can work with families and also with teachers and in schools to kind of promote some of these ideas and get schools involved in seeing how these can be beneficial for childhood development. So again, I will post, find a way to get these are all links in here, out to you guys if you want to check it out some more. Here are just the references for this presentation. And I hope this was valuable information for some of you. I hope it was insightful, and hopefully some of these things you can consider when you're working, not only with the families of the kids that you're working with now, but also when schools open back up, and when you consider how you're teaching some of your lessons. So anybody has any questions, feel free to either type them in, or we want to unmute now. I'm going to stop sharing, so I'll leave that up to Sandy. Thanks again.
Dave, thank you so much. This is so incredibly timely right now too, when we think about not only all the suggestions, but also the idea of spreading out, right? Not being in places all together. And it's like the outside environment offers all of the components that you need.
Yeah.
This
it's an opportunity to be creative and to get outside and just engage with the kids in ways that we're finding a lot of the research and the literature is now coming out that there's evidence to prove that these developmental milestones can be really, you can really work toward them in the outdoor settings. So.
And Dave, so a lot of people are really interested in the PowerPoint and all of the resources. So
awesome.
if you can get that to me in an email,
yeah.
I'm not sure why it kept getting bounced back from the Gmail, but if you can get that to me in I will make sure that everybody has the resources.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. I'll find a way to get all those over to you guys. Thanks everybody. I appreciate all these comments. Let me see here. Thank you. Oh, hi Janine. Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I hope it was helpful. I appreciate your time. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, this was really good, Dave. And I think a lot of it is the permission to play, and the permission to play outside and realize you are doing incredible work when you do that, because there's such a push towards plastic, and there's such a push towards sit in your chair, sit at the table, experience this canned curriculum.
Yeah.
And then you're being a teacher, and then you're providing an adequate service to a child.
I think there is going to be kind of more of a pushback against that style of education. And I think there's sort of a lag when we see people doing things. There's always the question of, well, is there research? Is there evidence to support this? And we're seeing a lot of that evidence come out now, which really can support these ideas and these concepts, and just really help them, kind of merge into other settings when we talk about schools, or if we talk about outpatient therapy or something like that. So, yeah, and if anybody has any more specifics they'd like to, I'll put my email here in the chat. I have a ton of resources about this stuff. Like I said, I've been working on this over a year for my capstone project. It's all kind of coming into accumulation now, but I've got a lot of information. I'll type, here's my email there. If anybody just wants to talk more or has any specific questions, or just looking for more information, anything like that, I'd be happy to chat. So yeah, I hope,
Dave,
hope this is valuable.
Thank you so much. This has been really valuable and very timely at this, for all kinds of reasons, right? Everything happens for a reason. I think back to that picture that I took of you from behind walking on the bridge, right? That was like the perfect first example of like out in nature, I spy, and the two of you and the little girl pointing. It's just like that encapsulates so much. You've come a long way, and we really appreciate all your expertise. You're going to do fabulous things, Dave.
Great. Well, thank you, Sandy. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for being here. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your weeks here. Let me type in my email here one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll share, like I said, I'll share the PowerPoint. I'll share the resources. I'll put your email. If you want to send all that to me, I will just make sure it gets out to everyone, because I think everyone's really excited and very motivated from this.
Sounds good. Sounds good, Sandy.
All right, Dave. So we will let you go. I'm going to